call from a friend. They were looking for some help. I was living in LA at the time. They were looking for some help at a photo agency that's based here in LA called Wire Image. Went in there, got the job there, started working there on their sports desk, just editing photos at night. Quickly started, shooting stuff whenever I could during the day. I would go to a USC football game, during the day, shoot the game, then go over and work the photo desk at night, or shoot Dodgers, or, hockey here, or basketball, anything I could, just to get experience and, build my portfolio and stuff. And at that same time, Wire Image was working with the NFL. And in 2007, the NFL decided, hey, we want to bring all of our digital assets in-house, meaning like their website, and combine that. They had just started NFL Network. So prior to that, NFL.com was run by, I think it was CBS at the time. And so the NFL brought me in to help, build a website, build kind of their photo operations, and just build everything from the ground up. And that's when I came on board 2007 and started working on NFL.com.
Parallax. You are now tuned into the Parallax Effect. It's not the message, it's the messenger. What up, Ryan? It's time. Parallax. Oatmeal's better than no meal. Guess who's back to make mountains out of molehills? If this don't move you, I bet my folks will. This beat's smooth, but trust me, there ain't no chill. Ask Ryan, if I'm lying, I'm flying. It's the sculpture of all aspects of the culture. Parallax. The People's Podcast is back, laying it down flat for you wherever you at. Your job, or your car, or your jog, or your flight. Loads of archives with no ending in sight. Hitting on any topic, long as it ain't no nonsense. You can see the others for the drama and the gossip. Word to Brett, best there ever was, recognize it. Never secondary, my eyes stay on the pocket. Parallax. And if you feeling the vibes, give us 5 stars. Oh, and follow and subscribe. Parallax. Sit back and recline, relax and enjoy the ride. Cause it's that Parallax. And you just passed the test. This is the Parallax Effect. Come on, Parallax. Sit back and recline, relax and enjoy the ride. Cause it's that Parallax. And you're here, that's mad respect. Welcome to the Parallax Effect. Yeah.
This again is the Parallax Effect podcast, where we continue to navigate through the shifting tides of perspectives. I am your host, Ryan Lavelle. Welcome back to the show. Appreciate you all so much again for taking the time to join and spend your day or evening or weekend or however you might be listening with us. Allow me to remind you that you can follow us on Instagram at Parallax Effect Media. You can link up with us on Facebook at the Parallax Effect Podcast, and also follow us on Twitter at Parallax Effects. Once again, that's Parallax Effects with an S. And please subscribe to our YouTube channel. The link is in the show description, as well as on the bottom right-hand corner of the screen. Okay, I would like to take the time to introduce today's guest, a very talented individual who was born in Michigan but grew up in the Bay Area. That's the San Francisco, Oakland Bay Area in California, and graduated from San Jose State University with a degree in photojournalism. He is the lead photographer and director of photography for the National Football League, everybody's favorite pastime. I'm pretty sure there are nice, memorable images that you have seen that he has taken credit for, that he deserves credit for, because he is behind all the action. He also enjoys fishing, camping, and dirt bikes on his free time. We're also going to get into where we met, which is at WrestleMania 39. So he just doesn't do just football. He does multiple sporting and entertainment events. So the Parallax Effect would like to welcome Ben Liebenberg to the show. How you doing today, Ben?
Doing great. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Thank you so much for being here. I usually give you one of these little If I can get my switchboard working right here, we have some nice little applause button here. There
There
we
we
go.
go.
He is in the building. He is in the virtual studio. Welcome, Ben. Thank you so much for joining us. We want to get right to it. Always, we kind of lead off talking about where you grew up. We talked about Michigan. Which part of Michigan did you grow up in, and what was that Michigan youth like?
Well, I was born in Kalamazoo, Michigan. It was, I moved out of there. We moved out of there in like the early 80s. So before I even started kindergarten, we moved to the Bay Area. So don't remember a lot of it, but, going back there in the summertime, it was, a good Midwest town. It was fun to be in and just, still have some family back there and stuff. But really, I call the Bay Area my home. Grew up there pretty much, from kindergarten on, and love the Bay Area, love all the sports teams there, love the 49ers.
So grew up more of a Bay Area sports fan versus a Michigan sports fan. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. We had a good run. We had, 49ers dynasty. We had the Oakland A's. We had the Giants were contenders at times too. So we had a lot of things going up in the Bay Area. It was great.
And still do often enough. One of my former guests, Jerry Durham, is also a Bay Area enthusiast, and we were talking about a lot of Warriors, a lot of Giants. So still have a lot going up there in the Bay Area, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And when obviously when I was growing up and living up there, the Warriors weren't what the Warriors are now, so it was a little different back then. But still loved going to Warriors games and seeing those great teams with like Chris Mullin, Mitch Richmond, Tim Hardaway, Don Nelson. Things like that. It was a fun time still.
It's good when somebody can come on and give history to those Warrior teams of the past that have paved the way to the Warriors of the present. Very recently enjoyed several championships over my guy LeBron in Cleveland. How did you enjoy those matchups?
Oh, that was great. Just really cool to see. Just love it when any team in the Bay Area is doing well.
Yeah. Phenomenal stuff. So stayed local, San Jose State, right, for college.
Yep.
Was the plan always to get into photojournalism? Was there other ideas there?
No, it was not a plan. I graduated from high school in 1996 and had no idea what I wanted to do. Ended up moving to Lake Tahoe just to snowboard, and they have I had taken a few photo classes in high school, or one photo class in high school. And I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. I'd always taken pictures and stuff. I'd grown up, traveling around with my grandparents. My parents would kind of send me off to Michigan for the summer, and I would hang out with my grandparents, my cousins, and we'd travel. They'd take us all over the United States in their like little van. And so I would always have a camera. That's kind of how I kind of got into photography, was just taking pictures on, of me and my cousins and my grandparents, at just cool places we'd go to. And then took a class in high school, just like a beginning photo class, and had a good time. And I was kind of, I was into skateboarding and snowboarding and started taking pictures of all my friends. And that's really kind of where I, like my first, dipping my toe into kind of like that sports action world. It was skateboarding in like high school and whatnot. Moved to Lake Tahoe. Didn't know what I wanted to do. Started going to community college up there. They had some photo classes. This is back in, the 90s when we worked in darkrooms. Digital cameras weren't really a thing, or at least not an affordable thing, at the time, and they were just the very early days of digital photography. And so we were working in darkrooms and, really fell in love with, watching images just appear on paper, in the darkroom and different things you could create, and was really just fell in love with action sports. Did a lot of snowboarding up there, and still didn't know what I wanted to do. Was just taking the English, the math, history, basic classes, of all that, just trying to get stuff out of the way, and just hanging out at the college one day, looking at the bulletin board, and they had this like piece of paper about internships, and one of them was the Tahoe Daily Tribune, and it was a photography internship. I was like, oh, what's this? Like, let me, find out more information. Ended up like going and interviewing for an internship, got the internship, knew nothing about working in journalism, knew nothing about working at a newspaper, just knew that I liked to take photos. And so I started doing an internship there. There was 2 photographers there, Dan and Jim. They were great and kind of started showing me the ropes of kind of journalism and what journalism was about. And they actually, turned me on to San Jose State. And I had no idea this. I grew up in San Jose. I did not know anything about San Jose State, but San Jose State at the time was one of the best photojournalism schools in the country. And so ended up, after a couple years in Tahoe, shooting snowboarding and skiing and working, with the newspaper for different, doing different aspects of, photography for them. Moved back home to finish school and started doing photojournalism at San Jose State. And they had a daily newspaper, so it was very similar to the same kind of stuff I was doing. And at that time, really kind of my forte was sports. I kind of had that action sports background. And so kind of kept doing sports, started shooting football, soccer, baseball, jiu-jitsu, just like any kind of sports I could, and then at the same time, through some just photographers that had gone to San Jose State, we're still in the Bay Area, had gotten connected with Sports Illustrated. So started assisting for Sports Illustrated, in about, that was about 2001, started assisting in, really like got an opportunity to work with some of the best football photographers ever in this business, guys like Peter Reed Miller, Vijay Lavaro, Brad Manchin, David Bergman, John Beaver, all these guys that would come into the Bay Area from all over the country, to shoot football, and, started going to 49ers games, Raiders games, just doing anything I could. And back then it was still shooting film. So it was, we would, shoot all this film. We'd have to rush it to SFO and ship it to New York. It was a different time. It was a fun time, and learned a lot, so much from all those guys that I worked with in that time frame, more so than I think you could ever get in a classroom. You're working with the best in the business, helping them, watching what lenses they're using, watching what they're shooting, when they're shooting it, things like that. Really kind of at that point kind of set my path forward down into the sports world.
Right. And very good pathway that led you to where you are. You made me a little nostalgic talking about the early 90s and the old, digital cameras weren't a thing. I remember right over at the local Rite Aid, they used to have a kiosk, basically a little photo booth, and you take your disposable camera, you turn it in, you come back a day or two later, and they handed you the envelope with all your photos in it, and you're excited to see which one. So you didn't even really get to check in real time what you took and what it came out like.
Yeah, you didn't know.
Yeah, it was kind of like...
It's not like now you have all this information associated with every photo, like what lens you had, what your settings were, everything about your camera, what time it was, where it was, you can see all this information, and it's great because you can really just take that into account, when you're, okay, well, why does this look like this? Or what did I do here? You used to have to write things down in like a notepad.
Right. Yes, indeed. Very, it had to be very detailed, but I guess that having to acquire that knowledge in the past definitely probably helps you in the present, even though all the settings you can, readily available, like you said, right on the screen, all that information wise. So from family photographer at a very young age to the dark room, straight to San Jose State, got that crucial mentorship, which I agree, even in our profession of healthcare physical therapy, the mentorship makes a huge difference in skill and interest as well. Were there any hardships, bumps in the road, times of kind of a lot of deep thinking for you that you can tell us about?
Absolutely. I graduated in 2003, and every newspaper, I feel like, in the country was laying off photojournalists. Like, they had no budgets. They were cutting staffs, cutting entire newsrooms, shutting down newspapers. And here I am coming out of college with a photojournalism degree. And, I'm sitting there, and applying for jobs and you're competing against a job at this time, there may be 300 applicants, and I'm a college kid just out of college competing against, veterans in this industry that had been working for 20 plus years, that had been laid off. So it was really hard. There weren't a lot of jobs, and so I kind of went back to my second love is music photography. And I had been doing a lot of it in Lake Tahoe because they brought in a lot of bands and different groups up there, everything from like reggae, you had like the Wailers or to Two Live Crew to, festival type, things at the ski resorts and things like that. The Beastie Boys had played up there, like Del the Funky Homo Sapien, all these great hip hop groups from the Bay Area would come up there and stuff. So I did a lot of that, and I'd met a good friend of mine. His name's Buku One. He lives in Oakland. And when I lived in Tahoe, and we had kept in touch. And when I was back, at San Jose State, we had started doing music photography together. He did skateboarding. He's a graffiti artist. So that kind of evolved. And I started going on the road with him and different artists and taking pictures and just doing whatever I could to make some money, whether that, was like helping tour manage or, selling some merch, just so I could get out on the road and take pictures. And started doing that, exclusively full time because I couldn't get, a job in journalism, and did that until 2007, but really, 2000, did that for about 2 years straight until about 2005, 2004 there. And really just had to like hustle. And, I didn't know where my next check was coming from. And there were no, health insurance benefits or anything like that. It was just, wherever I could make money selling photos, but did a lot of great stuff. Was able to, travel around the United States, go to Europe, did quite a few album covers in that time frame, DVD covers, records, all kinds of different stuff. Had a lot of work published in different magazines. I think one of the coolest things in that time was having a photo published in The Source. If you listened to hip hop, in the 90s, you knew The Source.
And that was the hip hop Bible back then.
Yeah, exactly. So, that was definitely cool. It was a fun time. And, but then got a call from a friend. They were looking for some help. I was living in LA at the time. They were looking for some help at a photo agency that's based here in LA called Wire Image. Went in there, got the job there, started working there on their sports desk, just editing photos at night. Quickly started, shooting stuff whenever I could during the day. I would go to a USC football game, during the day, shoot the game, then go over and work the photo desk at night, or shoot Dodgers or, hockey here or basketball, anything I could, just to get experience and, build my portfolio and stuff. And at that same time, Wire Image was working with the NFL. And in 2007, the NFL decided, hey, we want to bring all of our digital assets in-house, meaning like their website, and combine that. They had just started NFL Network. So prior to that, NFL.com was run by, I think it was CBS at the time. And so the NFL brought me in to help, build a website, build kind of their photo operations, and just build everything from the ground up. And that's when I came on board 2007 and started working on NFL.com. And we worked on it for a couple months before we launched it. And, and here I am. That was 2007. I'm going into my 17th season, I think, if my math is correct.
Yeah, congratulations on that. And I bet what a wild ride it's been. I definitely want to dive into that as well. But you mentioned taking photos during the day and then photo editing during night. And so for folks like myself who aren't as savvy on the photo editing process, what did that entail?
So I worked it was called the sports desk, the sports photo desk. And so we would have, whether it's let's say somebody's at a baseball game, at like Red Sox game, we have a photographer there at that game. They're shooting photos, they edit and Photoshop them. Then they would send them to me. I would put them up on our website. So once they were up on our website, they could be licensed for sale, by magazines, newspapers, websites, anything like that. Everybody had access to those photos to purchase and license those photos. So I was kind of like the middleman between the photographer and, the end users.
Understood.
And making sure everything looked good, everything was in focus, everything was captioned correctly, had the right people identified in it, things like that. And I think that kind of helped to set me up for, the NFL world where, that you had to do, when I first started the NFL, there was not a huge photo team either. And you had to kind of do a lot of that yourself. It was more of like a hybrid job. And I think that's kind of the way a lot of jobs have gone in the digital world, with everything being the way it is now with social media, and just everything has to be so timely, is you have people that are really in these hybrid positions that are maybe editing photos, shooting video, doing all these different things. You kind of have to be a jack of a lot of trades.
Right. Definitely a huge learning curve, and something I imagine could be a lot more amenable to change if you get in it at the time that you got in it, where you were literally, hands on deck, literally responsible for getting all that stuff done. So very exciting, but you stuck with it. Were there any times where you felt like, especially out there on the road doing your own freelance stuff, like, oh man, I might think of something else to do with my life?
There's definitely ups and downs with any job. I think you kind of have some, lulls, and, well, let me see what else is out there, but at the end of the day, I love football. I love shooting football, and I'm one of a handful of people that are lucky enough to shoot probably 20 plus games a year, and do this and make a good living at it. There's not a lot of people that are doing, sports full time anymore.
Right. Yeah. It's definitely,
I feel lucky. Like I like doing it, and I don't want to stop. Like, I like going to football games. I like spending my Sundays, whereas I used to be watching football, on my couch. I love going to football games, and I love being there on the sidelines and watching all that action and capturing the history of the game. It still excites me. And if I wasn't excited anymore, and if it was just like another, like, oh no, like I got to go to another football game, I wouldn't be here anymore. I'd find something else. But I still have that passion, to be out there.
So 2007-ish, that endeavor starts with the NFL, life-changing experience, life-changing occupation, like you said, giving you access to all. So what's being on the road like? What are some of the better, I guess, NFL cities you like going to, or just cities in general? Like, what are some of your more memorable experiences?
Yeah, well, let's start with kind of like cities I like to go to that I've been to a few times. I've been lucky enough. I've been to Brazil, to Rio de Janeiro. Like, I went to Brazil for the NFL with Russell Wilson and Ciara a couple years ago, and we had a blast. We were there for, I don't know, 7 or 8 days, just seeing the sights of Brazil, and helicopter rides and on top of mountains, and just watching photographing Russell Wilson, work out on a beach, in Brazil, or play football with a flag football team, or giving away giving things back to the community. We were kind of out in the middle of Brazil, maybe an hour outside of Rio, and this small little town, and Russell and Ciara donated a bunch of equipment to these kids, that barely had helmets, like didn't have like shoes, barely had footballs, and just some fun stuff like that. I think that was a pretty great experience to be a part of, just surprising these kids with, that kind of stuff, and just seeing the pure joy that they have, in receiving a gift like that, and just the joy they have for the sport of football, it was pretty remarkable. This was their life, was playing football, and to, receive just, some footballs and some pads, like helmets, things like that, so they could continue to play, was, amazing to see and be a part of, so lucky enough that I've been to Rio, I've been to Munich, Munich is an amazing city. Recommend it to anyone. I've been to Mexico City several times to shoot football games in Estadio Azteca. When you're in a place like Estadio Azteca, and you think about, like, if you're a fan of soccer, like World Cups, Pele played there, Maradona with the hand of God happened there, just so many cool, such history there in a stadium like that, and same with being in Munich. We're at the same stadium where Bayern Munich plays. it's a massive stadium. It's really cool to see. Things like that. I've done games in London at 3 or 4 different stadiums there. So I've been lucky enough to go to all these like amazing cities outside of the country. That have been really cool. Mexico City is an amazing city. I love it there. I've been there 3 or 4 times.
We're trying to get there for the next cup, to the Azteca, just for hallowed soccer ground.
Yeah.
And being in some of these cities where the other football, soccer, is probably the more popular football. How was American football accepted there? You said in Rio de Janeiro, handing out a lot of equipment, which was nice. How about Munich, Mexico City?
Mexico City is unbelievable. I mean, that stadium's a sellout, and that's a big stadium. I think it's probably close to 90,000 people. It's probably bigger than most stadiums, here in the United States. And it sells out. It's a loud crowd. It's an amazing crowd. You get a lot of people that come down from United States for those games. Munich, we sold out. I want to say we sold out in like an hour, something, probably less than that. And that's like 90,000 people. Like, all of our games in Europe sell out very quickly. I think one of the coolest things about when you go to a game in London or anywhere over there is it's not just the two teams playing that are represented there. You'll see every team represented. You'll see older players represented in jerseys, 49ers teams, from the 90s, Cowboys teams from the 90s, things like that, teams that people were just, into growing up, and they've just continued that love, and people travel from all over Europe. There's a huge surge of people that come in for those games, and it's a fun time.
Right.
It's pretty cool to see. And in Munich this past season, when I was in Munich it was Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Seattle Seahawks, that game had the energy of a Super Bowl. I mean, and it was really just like, I don't know, like a week 8 regular season game. But I mean, the fans were loud. It was electric. They sang, one of the coolest things was they sang Take Me Home Country Road at like the 2-minute warning in the fourth quarter. I've never seen that. The whole stadium is singing. After the game, they sing Sweet Caroline. It's really cool. It's really cool to see.
Yeah, they give you some of that soccer environment where there's a lot of chants.
Yes. Yes.
My fiance Jazz, who you met, we'll get into how we met in a little bit. We were in SoFi, pretty much the same spot that we met you at for the first soccer match that they had there. It was a doubleheader. Galaxy was playing the first round, and then LAFC, they were playing against Club America, and then I think Chivas. And that was kind of like her first soccer experience, and just what was happening in the flares, the extra large signs, the chants was just totally different than her, United States sports type of experience. So it was really fun to experience.
Oh yeah, it's different. I mean, it's different between soccer and football. It's wild how loud it is, and just the chanting, the I don't know. I feel like there's whistles. They had those horns for a long time. I don't know if they still do those. It's been a while since I've been to a soccer game, but like all that kind of stuff was great, and it was exciting. It was electric, and that's what I love about sports, is those kind of moments,
Yeah. That's always why sports has been such a popular, pastime. Well, no matter what sport you're into, because of the togetherness and the team, and it teaches a lot of lessons at the youth level as well too. It's good, having youth sports in this country, the way that we're trying to, build up all the youth camps, and now hopefully soccer is kind of taking, that same road as well too, building up AYSO and things like that. But yeah, so in the States then, so you get to do a lot of traveling outside the States. That's fantastic. Get to see a bunch of parts of the world. Which NFL cities do you enjoy going to more? Or is it just all part of the job and they're all great?
No, there's some cities I haven't been to yet, surprisingly. I'm still on that quest to get to every stadium. But I would say like Seattle's a great city to go to. I'm partial to San Francisco and Santa Clara up there, because that's where I'm from. I grew up, 15 minutes from that stadium. So always fun to go up there. There's places where, like, it's like you said, going to Estadio Azteca, there's so much history there. Like going to Green Bay, and Lambeau Field, there's so much history there. You think, when you think about it, just, the players that have played there, or, even here in LA, when you go to like the Coliseum, you think about like when, because they did Super Bowl I there. You think about the tunnel that leads out from the locker rooms onto the field. Like you think about the people that walked out that tunnel, and you have like some of the greatest sports players in history, not just in football, but, baseball, you have, USC there. There's so much history. And I think that's what excites me is, I was lucky enough to be at Candlestick. We were working on a project, and I was in Candlestick, about, it's a couple weeks before they really like tore the whole thing down. And there, I remember talking with the groundskeeper that was there, and he walked off from a sprinkler head where Dwight Clark caught the catch to send the 49ers to the Super Bowl, and just being able to like stand where that play happened was, pretty cool and pretty historic for me, especially being just a 49ers fan and, remember, watching those games and things like that. But
I think that's like the most iconic play in 49ers history, even though it wasn't at a Super Bowl.
No, it wasn't in a Super Bowl, but it was, and it's definitely probably the most iconic 49ers play, and it's probably one of the top 3 most iconic, football plays. Everyone knows that one.
Everybody, yeah, exactly. The great play, great catch, to send them on moving forward.
I have it framed. Photographer was Walter Yost, and I have it framed and hanging on my wall at my house.
Oh wow! So as a photographer, and you make an iconic, you take an iconic shot. Do you sign it for folks, or do you sign it for, are there any Ben Liebenberg signatures in living rooms across the country?
Oh, there's definitely some photos out there that I've printed and signed for people. Definitely, I think
that must feel pretty good. And what are some of those?
Yeah, it's always pretty cool when someone wants.
What are some of those photos that maybe the common fan may recognize that came from either your editing or your lens?
It's hard to say. Like, I mean, I've been to 15 Super Bowls, so I'm sure people out there have seen photos from those games. I usually, if somebody wants a photo for their house or something, it's more so, what does that photo mean to them? It may not be like my best photo, but it's a photo that's, something that means something to them, whether that's, maybe it's Tom Brady, winning a Super Bowl, or, something like that. Or, I don't know, Kansas City Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes or something. It's specific to them. It may not be like my favorite photo, or it may not be my best photo I've ever taken, or it might not even be the photo that, that people know me for. But it's just, it's what that photo means to them.
Right. And have there been...
Go
ahead.
I was just going to say, like, I don't know if I have an iconic photo. Like, do I have the catch? No. But I've definitely, captured some pretty historical moments, through my last, 17 seasons of NFL.
Right. But is there a moment,
being some cool things?
Is there a moment or a play in a game? We're going to get into a little bit more of my recent undertaking of photography. Mm-hmm. But sometimes if I'm taking a photo of something, I'm like, yeah, got it. Like, I know I got that one. Yeah. Have you had that feeling during a game or an event?
Yeah, I think absolutely. I think, the best part about digital is you can look at it and you can know, like, oh yes, I did get it. And you could tell if you get it or not most of the time, when you're looking through it, unless something happens really quickly and you're moving and you're not quite sure exactly how to look. But for most of the time, you can see that it's sharp. You can see that it's in focus. You know what I mean? You got it, but you can look at it. You get that like satisfaction. There's a lot of times where you're like, hey, check this out. Like, or you're like comparing shots on the sidelines and stuff too. There's a lot, you're, sitting next to your buddy or something, seeing who got a better shot and stuff. There's always that competitiveness too to it as well.
Right. And 15 Super Bowls, like you said, that was a question on my list. Which one of those stand out the most for you? Obviously a Super Bowl is a Super Bowl, so I know they're all going to be, electric.
someone just asked me this the other day, like, what's like a cool moment, of you working at the NFL, and it kind of relates back to your question, from like a Super Bowl. I, obviously I'm a 49er fan. I grew up in the Bay Area. Um, the first Super Bowl they had been to in a long time was against the Ravens in New Orleans. And I was photographing, I want to say it was Alicia Keys, so I'm out in the middle of the field. I think she was doing the national anthem. And then, the coin toss happened, and I'm running back towards, the sideline. And I see like some players on the 49ers huddling up. And, so I run over there, and I'm like kind of in the huddle taking their picture and stuff, and, I want to say it was, I can't even remember. No, I'll just be making something up. I can't remember who it was kind of leading the huddle, but, I'm kind of listening, taking some pictures. And then I realized like there's guys behind me, like that have their arms on like my shoulders. Like I'm in the huddle now at this point with the 49ers, before the Super Bowl. I mean, and how many people can, outside of players can say they've done that, which was super cool to be a part of, unfortunately we didn't win that Super Bowl, but which is tough.
I've got some theories about the lights
cool
going
moment
out in that game. I don't
Oh
want to
yeah,
put
I have
you,
a lot of theories about that game.
yeah, you're with the league, so I don't want to take you down that road. But
I will say I've been in 3 different games where there's been blackouts, where the power has gone out and the game has been stopped. And 2 of them have been 49ers games.
2 of them, see, there's power in numbers, sometimes not in a good way, but we're going to leave it at that.
I don't know what that means.
Yeah,
but,
exactly. But
Yeah.
if that wasn't a bucket list, known bucket list, to be in the huddle with the 49ers at the Super Bowl, I'm sure it went on top of the bucket list after it happened.
Definitely a cool moment.
I'm glad you got to have that moment. That kind of led into my next question of, I know it's predominantly, or it's a profession, it's a job for you, but do you get to enjoy the games, especially the Super Bowls, and do you get to kind of take it in, or are you just, from start to finish, you're working?
I think look, Super Bowl is a monster of a week. It's long days, long hours. We're working hard, but we're also, you're there with, I'm there with some of my favorite people, around, that I work with, and, I also have like friends and family that come to the games. I'm lucky enough to get a couple tickets, and, so, my friends, my parents, my wife, my kids, they've all been to Super Bowls, and I've been lucky enough to kind of, give those tickets to, people, and let them, experience, some of the festivities and the parties and things like that, and, we're always, trying to make, time to go out as a group, go out, with your family, your friends, whoever you have in town. So there's still some fun, we're in Las Vegas this year, and we're going to go out to some great meals, and, probably, see some people and have a good time.
Yeah, excellent. Definitely should enjoy the fruits of the labor for sure. And speaking of the labor,
you can sleep in February.
You can sleep in February. You can hibernate all the way through the beginning of the next NFL season. How's that? Speaking of hard labor, you obviously must have been doing your job phenomenally and correctly, because as the title we stated at the beginning of the show, lead photographer, director of photography. When did you earn that title, and what was that experience like?
I earned that title in 2018. And I mean, that was always my goal, was director of photography, from the moment I started at the NFL, and was always working towards that, and when I got it, it was definitely, it was an accomplishment, and when I started at the NFL, there was nobody above me, like in photography. Like I was it, and I brought on more people, and I built it, I think it was really just, the accomplishment was what I've been able to do with my team, from starting with just me to, we have 12 photographers. We're almost 25 people.
Wow.
At this point. 12
awesome.
Photographers. We have a whole photography team in-house here, of photo editors that are working, on game days, just throughout the week, all year round.
And so now you have that team, right? You all travel to a game. How do you divvy the folk? You're going to be in the end zone. You're going to be on the 50. You're going to be assigned to, Russell Wilson, and you're going to be assigned to. So how does that work out?
Well, for the most part, on a regular season game, there's only one or two of us. So it's not like if it's Super Bowl, we all have exact kind of assignments, like, okay, you're going to be, in this end zone, you're staying in this quadrant, you're following at the end of the game, you're following the losing quarterback, you're following the winning quarterback. I want you on head coaches. We have, someone positioned like overhead. Okay, you're shooting at the 50-yard line. When the game ends, move over this way so you can get a better shot at the trophy presentation, different things like that. We're going through all those kind of just assignments, scenarios, things like that. Regular season game, if most of the time we just have one person at a game, and you're kind of just covering big players, big plays.
Right.
And then if there's two of us at a game, which does happen sometimes, especially, if it's a Monday night or a Thursday night, we're kind of splitting the field in half. We're covering like the sides, and one person might be a little bit ahead of the line of scrimmage. The other person might be a little bit back behind the line of scrimmage, just kind of based on, what we're looking to capture.
Right. I see. Okay. So it
What
kind
the needs
of
are.
demands a little bit more personnel as we start getting into the postseason and obviously the ultimate game of the season in the Super Bowl. That makes perfect sense.
Yeah. When we get into like postseason, we're going to have, more photographers. We get into the championship games, we're going to have more photographers. We get into Super Bowl, we're going to have a lot of photographers.
Right. And kind of now pivoting to where we met. So obviously most of your work done in the NFL, but we talked about all the sports you like. We talked about how you've taken pictures of many different athletes playing many different sports. We met at WrestleMania 39, SoFi Stadium. We and the group that you met, we've all been, for the most part, wrestling fans since our youth, and we just never let it go. You have the types where like they grow up with it, then they let it go, then they grow up, right? And you have the other types like us where we just don't let go of it, and we never grow up in that aspect of our life, so we just continue it on. So we were lucky that we were in a nice spot, kind of perched right above the ring. I have some family. My brother works at SoFi, so he was able to maneuver us around a little bit.
Okay.
And then that area was like the VIP area, so it's not exactly.
Yeah, it was a nice spot to spend two nights at.
Yeah, it was
you got a great view.
Definitely was. So we positioned ourselves around your equipment. And I just was standing there looking at I think you had a huge tripod there, one of the biggest cameras I've ever seen in my life. And this was before you were there. The equipment was just there, and I just, obviously wasn't going to mess around with it, but I was definitely admiring it. And that's when you came back, when we sparked up a conversation. And, you took, out of all the photos that we took on our own, you took the best one of us, which I'm going to put on our video here so the folks can see it. It's actually in the intro video to my show as well, too. So thank you so much for taking that shot. But was that how many wrestling events have you been to, or was that your first one?
That was my second one. I photographed, and you'll probably know this, but it was back when WCW was in their prime, and I did a Thursday Night Thunder. Is that what it was
Thursday
called?
Night Thunder, that's correct.
In Reno, Nevada, in probably 99. So it'd been a while. That was when I was working for the newspaper in Lake Tahoe. I had convinced them to let me go down to Reno to shoot this. And it blew my mind, because I was into wrestling, and I would watch wrestling pretty regularly at that point. And so it was super cool to see. It was super cool to, just be backstage and see a lot of the wrestlers and, guys you like looked up to. You're like, oh my God, like Hulk Hogan, Kevin Nash. That was like the NWO days.
NWO was ruling the landscape back then.
Yeah, that was, I remember meeting Eric Bischoff and Goldberg, and, just like being like, whoa, like this is pretty cool. But, obviously, like I don't have a lot of opportunities to do wrestling. I mean, it's I think niche like just event, that they don't, there's not a lot of photographers doing that, and just hadn't crossed paths with it until WrestleMania. And a couple of the photographers that work for me also work for WWE. And a really good friend of mine, Brad Smith, works over there, who runs their photo department. And they were looking for some help, and I said, "Can I help?" And they're like, "Absolutely." Like, so I just kind of was like, "What do you need me to do? Like, you tell me. I just want to come and hang out and take some photos, or not even take photos. Like, you need me to, carry a tripod, whatever. I just want to come and see, what you guys are doing, and how you guys work and how you guys operate in such a massive, the Super Bowl of wrestling. I mean, that's the big one, so I just kind of wanted to be a part of it, and, see if there's anything I could take away from it, in terms of like, workflow, or, technically what are they doing, anything we could use in the NFL. And so ended up just getting perched up by you guys, for 2 days, working on we were basically working on a photo that they would distribute out to the press, that was made up of a lot of different photos, that they would have a photo retoucher kind of piece everything together. So it might be like some fireworks from here. They wanted the final match like in the Oculus TV screen, and then that person like in the ring with the belt, that they worked in to the final image and things like that. So it was, I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know, really what it was going to be like, but, I hung out up there for 2 days, had a blast, learned a lot, met some nice people, and, it was a good time. And I'd definitely do that again.
Yeah, definitely. And that was our third WrestleMania. We went to one when we were younger, WrestleMania 12. That was at the Anaheim Pond, now the Honda Center.
Okay.
And I think we were at 36, I think. Whichever one was at AT&T Stadium the first time. I think they've done two there already. So we were at that one too. So that was our third one. Very good experience. Hopefully we didn't deter your workflow that much, because we were running back and forth, I know, and in between your shots, because you were positioned in between our tables.
That was totally fine. I just was lucky that you guys just let me kind of hang out in your position, because that was a good spot to watch everything too. And it made for a great photo. It made for a great, really cool photo.
Yeah, definitely. And if you have any of those photos that I could put up that aren't license protected, I would definitely like to put those up on the show for the folks to see the wonderful work of Ben Liebenberg, representing at WrestleMania 39, representing at almost any NFL game that you would be watching. So do you do any of the filming as well, or is it still photos only?
I'm all stills. We have, obviously we have NFL Films, we have our broadcast partners, and then we have various other, video teams that are here in LA or in New York, or NFL Films as well, that are kind of doing some of that stuff outside of what NFL Films and the TV broadcasters do.
Right. Very good. And have you, mentorship was a very huge part of your development in your career. Have you had that chance, or what experience would you, or what advice, I should say, would you give to someone wanting to enter the field of photography?
Yeah, I think, well, one, yes, we have internships here at the NFL. We have a summer photo internship, so I would definitely, anyone that's interested in trying to get into the NFL or sports photography, keep an eye out for that. That usually comes out in the fall. It's when the application process starts, like late fall. We've had some really great interns. Two of our former interns are with, one's with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and has a Super Bowl ring. One is with the Arizona Cardinals. One of our former interns is at Florida in the photo department at the Florida Gators. And then we have one that's just graduating. They're just graduated this past spring. And then we just had our last intern just went back to the University of Michigan, and he's graduated next year. So we're excited to see, with both of them, where they're going. But I think, advice, for anyone looking to get into the NFL, just know the NFL is a tough sport to break into because it's the NFL and everybody wants to be on a sideline, and it's a very limited number of spaces. There's a cap, and so it's always tough to break into this field. But what I tell people is, work hard. If you get any opportunity you get, do the best you can. Be open, be honest, and be a good human. Being a good human being in this business goes a long ways, and that's how you're gonna meet people. That's how you're gonna network with people. That's how you're going to um, get your name out there. And when somebody needs somebody, they're going to say, hey, who do I know in LA? Oh yeah, Ben, he's great. Like we used him for this. Like, I talked to him about this. He's a good person. Let's see if he's available. And a lot of jobs in this business are word of mouth too. Whereas someone might be, hey, I need somebody in LA. Do you know anyone? That could help with this. Yeah, here's a couple of people I would recommend. And that's how a lot of things happen. It's a lot of networking and being a good person, because I've been in this business about 20 years now, and I've seen a lot of people that are good photographers and can take great photos, but they're just difficult to work with. They're just not kind, and those people don't work in sports anymore, because people just get sick of they don't want to work with you anymore.
It fleshes you out real quick, I would imagine.
Yeah, exactly.
Who are some of the athletes or referees or coaches that have been very gracious to you, or have made your job? Obviously it's a dream job, but made it even more fun to be at.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think getting to go to Brazil with Russell Wilson was great. He's a tremendous person. Really we were there, only together for 7 or 8 days or whatever it was, but really took the time to get to know people that were on the trip with him, and he's always been gracious to me. Him and Ciara, anytime I need a few minutes for a photo or something, they are more than willing to give me time, and have always been so nice and supportive, through since that trip. And even now when I see Russell, on the sidelines, or, pregame or something, he'll come over, he'll say hi, we'll talk for a few minutes, and, I think there's a lot of guys like that, that a lot of people, you see these players, and you're around them pregame a lot, and you get to know them, you talk to them pregame a little bit, say hi, and they kind of build up that trust, and building that trust is what, ultimately can lead you to some great moments and some great, imagery.
Right.
And I don't think there's, I've never really had any bad experiences. I would say, for the most part, somebody might be like, I don't really want to do any more photos, or, whatever, or just say, no, I'm not going to do that. But, at the end of the day, it is what it is. And, you just keep going.
Got to respect their privacy too. At some point, I imagine. They
have
to get back to their family.
Yeah, I mean, these guys, you got to know these guys are getting hit from every angle every day, whether that's talking with the media, photos, video, meetings, all kinds of stuff. So, at the end of the day, if, somebody says, nah, I really don't want to do that, then okay. Unless it's something you absolutely need and it's contractual, you're really just okay, we'll just go on to the next thing.
Right. And I feel like for the National Football League, as a photographer, I think your job is much more important, because you get to capture, especially the players, let's say when they may have their helmet off, because the overall view of the players is pretty relatively unrecognizable versus other sports because of the helmet. So I think the personability, the personification of the players is a little bit harder for the average fan to ascertain, because you don't really associate the player with their own face. You associate them with the helmet. So guys like you who are getting real close, getting there, getting in the huddle can really give some humanism to the players.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's some of my favorite stuff to shoot is, when I arrive at the stadium to when the game starts, it's like that pregame period, you can, helmets are off, we're up close, we're, I don't want to say in their face, but we're close. We're getting some different stuff. Their helmets are off. You get that personality. Once they get on the field, they all have helmets on. So a little bit, of that is lost. And you get a little bit more emotion. You're gonna see their eyes more. You're gonna see their faces and everything. And I love shooting that kind of stuff.
Yeah. What about, so this is actually a question for, us novice pretend. I don't want to say pretend because a lot of us really are really good at it, but not myself. I'm the pretend person. Can you, in layman terms, explain ISO, aperture, and shutter speed and what that means to light sensitivity?
Yeah. ISO is your film speed. And so a faster speed film is going to have more sensitivity to light. So like, when you were shooting, in let's just use SoFi, you can't shoot at a low ISO because your shutter speed you're not going to be able to get a fast enough shutter speed to expose the photo correctly to stop like action. So you're going to want to boost up your ISO so that in turn you can get a faster shutter speed. So obviously you want to be 1,000, 1,500, 2,000, 2,500th of a second shutter speed, or higher. If you're at like a day game, that's gonna go up a little bit. But you want to have that speed in the shutter so you can freeze that action. Now, and also by, when you can open up your aperture, so you want a low number on your aperture. So think of it like you have like a hole like this big, or you have a hole like that big. You want the bigger hole because that's going to allow more light in, so you can shoot that faster shutter speed as well. And also a lower number aperture is going to give you what's called depth of field or less depth of field. So you want that. So what it's going to do is you look at like a sports photo, you're going to see that background out of focus. That's because you're shooting at like a 2.8, and you're putting all that background out of focus. If you're shooting at like a high aperture, like a f22 or higher even, like Ansel Adams used to shoot really high apertures, and that's why you see everything in an Ansel Adams photo is crisp, sharp, because like all that depth in the image is all going to be sharp. Whereas if you're shooting at a low numbered aperture, like a 2.8, you're only going to have like what's right in front of you or whatever your focusing point is on, and then everything in the foreground and the background is going to be out of focus.
Understood. And so do you as a photographer, do you have your specialty? Like, do you like low aperture capturing that one image, or do you like capturing the whole, what is your kind of?
No, so it kind of depends. Like for game action, like I'm shooting low aperture, high shutter. As low as I can get, as high as I can get, without, there are some limits on like what the camera can do and things like that. So I can't just raise up the ISO, like do a super high ISO, because the higher you go on the ISO, you're going to get like some degradation of the image. You're going to get some, just what they call noise. It's going to look a little more pixelated. You're going to lose a little bit of quality. So you still want to keep that ISO as low as you can and keep the shutter high and the aperture low, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it does. And I just need to hear it more than once, because it starts to, certain things start to stick the more I hear it. But the triangle of the three is something that I've been really, really working on. Appreciate all the work that you do, Ben Liebenberg. Appreciate the work that you did at WrestleMania. Appreciate your story, how you came to be the director of photography in the National Football League. We do a little something on the show. It's called Light Speed. It's like a rapid fire round. Would you like to participate?
Yes, let's do it.
All right, we got Light Speed here with my man Ben Liebenberg, director of photography for the NFL. We are gonna start pretty simple. Favorite sport?
Football.
Football, indeed. Second favorite sport?
Oh, geez. I would say it's probably soccer.
Soccer's the other football,
Yep.
the association football that we call it. Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
How many cameras do you own?
Right now I I don't know, probably in my NFL equipment locker, I probably have about a dozen cameras sitting down there for various ages. I own one camera personally. It's a Leica Q2.
Leica Q2. Okay, I actually have to look that one up because my next question was Nikon versus Canon versus Sony or other.
Canon since '99.
All right, so now I have to rethink that because this is actually what I'm using now. It's a Nikon. It is I think DS500. This is actually my brother's, so it's about 10 years old or so, and we have a Tamron lens on it. I don't know if you can see that. So this is what I've been using as of late. I don't have any special flashes or real, I just take the tripod that I have for my mic and kind of, plug it up. So this is what I'm learning with right now, but I'm looking to upgrade. So you're saying Canon, so I'm gonna look that up.
I'll say regardless, okay, that's 10 years old. Like they all can take photos, and they all have the same basic workings. You know what I mean? Like the qualities may be a little different, things like that, but they all have an aperture, they all have a shutter, they all have an ISO. Every camera. So it's perfect, for where you're at to learn things, if you want to upgrade. I think I've been Canon since 1999. They've always been great to me, with lenses and equipment, and whatever I need to borrow from a loaner standpoint, for repairing things. They've always been good to me. But, I'd say my team is mixed. We shoot Canon, Nikon, and Sony. There's everybody will tell you why they like Sony, why they like Nikon, why they like Canon. I think at this level, the mirrorless cameras that are coming out now are all really competitive, and comparative. I think they're all pretty great. The Sonys have been great. They are very tack sharp. Nikon coming out with I think it's called the Z9. Is a really nice camera, and a lot of people are using that one. I just purchased R3s for the NFL and love those. Those have been great. Your next camera, there's probably a number of ways you can go.
Right. Look, if you can't make a bad choice, that's good for me because choices are tough to make sometimes for me.
The only thing I will say is, and part of the reason why I'm still with Canon is because that's the choice I made in 1999. And, so it's until the R3s or until the mirrorless came out, it was the same lens mount. So a lens I bought in 1999, I could still use. I can still use it today, So you still had all those lenses and everything. So it's those don't go out of date.
And what's the change in the mirrorless cameras now? What technological change was that?
Okay, so what you have there is a digital DSLR, single lens reflex. It has a mechanical shutter in there, there's a mirror that flips up when you press the button and goes back down. And in a mirrorless camera, there is no mirror; it's all electronic shutter.
I see. Okay.
So you're taking that mechanical portion of it out.
But do you still hear that audible kind of mechanical click in the mirrorless?
If you want to. I have it turned on because I like the sound, so I can hear what I'm doing.
You're right.
Because otherwise it's just a little flicker in your eyepiece, and I don't see as well as I used to, and I like to hear. I'd like to hear that sound going off. But the good thing about a mirrorless camera, you can get 30 plus frames a second.
I see.
Whereas probably your camera you had there, maybe 3, 4, 4.5, maybe. I don't know exactly what, whereas maybe you were getting up to 10, 12, with some other, the pro model cameras, that were still SLRs.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So it's different now.
It's an upgrade.
You shoot a lot more. Yeah. And you shoot a lot more too. I had to upgrade my laptop because I couldn't download cards.
Yes, I'm going through that actually as I'm recording more episodes in a different way, but the memory that I have is not quite. And I bought a new computer to deal with this, and I don't think I went high enough. So we're trying to figure that out.
Oh yeah.
Do you still shoot regular photos with your cell phone, or do you have to have? I mean, you know what you're taking, you know what you expect to get, and I know the quality of cell phone camera pictures have gone way up.
Yeah, no, I mean, I have an iPhone. I take photos with it. A lot of photos of my kids, stuff like that. I always carry a camera. A lot of times when we're on vacation and stuff, I'll carry, my little camera, my little Leica camera, just, so I have it there. But, I'm taking a lot of photos, outside of work with my phone.
Got it.
It's funny you say it. Like I was really annoyed the other day because I was trying to take a photo and the sun kept doing this star thing, and it was like putting these like sunbeams, and I didn't like it. I just wanted like a normal photo, and I was a little annoyed by that. But
yeah, we were in Costa Rica
I wish I had my camera with me.
Yeah, we were in Costa Rica a couple weeks ago, and I was with my fiance's uncle who works for Univision, so he's like the lead engineer, so he's very camera friendly, and he's taking these fantastic pictures with his iPhone, better than what I'm getting on this Nikon. I'm like, well, what are your settings so I can try and duplicate that? And he knows how to bounce the light off of a plant and make it real, lower the aperture like you just said. And I was in awe.
I forget who said this, and this is years ago, but someone had a quote somewhere. It was something like, the best camera you can have is the one you have on you. Look, you can take great photos with an iPhone. They have apps, so you can do all the same settings. You can kind of, do a lot of different things. And, so I think you're right. The quality of phones has gone way up, and there's people, that have shot football games with cell phones. Obviously you're not, like, an iPhone isn't getting you the same as a 400 millimeter 2.8, Canon lens, and you're not, getting 30 frames a second on an iPhone, but you can still do some pretty cool stuff with it.
You're still getting the job done. You see those billboards in LA where it's like they fill up half of the hotel, shot on an iPhone, and I'm like, well, how did they do that? Because I want to do that. So just a question I was wondering from a professional at the highest level. Pivoting a little bit back to the Bay Area, favorite Bay Area restaurant?
Oh my gosh, easy one for me. La Victoria Burritos. It's a taqueria. Yeah, they got this orange sauce that's amazing. I hit it every time I'm in the Bay.
Every time. All right, so now I know where my next destination is. I can look that one up. Favorite musician or musical group?
Oh man, I love music. I have so many great musicians.
Give me a top five.
Like Wu-Tang, Del the Funky Homo Sapien. I would say, anything. I could like name you 100 from the 90s, but
we can go. The 90s is perfectly fine with me.
I was a big fan of like Mos Def and Black Star. My friend Buku One, always, he had a lot of songs around graffiti and skateboarding and stuff, just things I liked, so like always cool to listen to his music. Anything from the Project Blowed era of, here in LA, Abstract Root, ACLO, and Freestyle Fellowship, all those guys. I used to do a lot of work with those guys. And if you're familiar with any of them from, Project Blowed over in Lamert Park.
Most definitely.
Did a lot of work with them, did a lot of work, just different, hip hop artists, here in LA or, and in the Bay. I'm going to see Wu-Tang, Run the Jewels, and Deltron 3030 in like 2 weeks.
Oh, wow. That's going to be phenomenal.
Yeah. So super excited about that.
Excellent. Yeah. Best skateboard or snowboard trick that you've pulled off?
Oh God. Kickflip. That's about kickflips are about as much as I could do. And I did one recently and probably shouldn't have, because I probably could have really hurt myself.
But you lived to tell about it, so
Yeah, exactly.
The victory is in the completion, Ben Liebenberg. Yes, it is.
Yeah.
SoFi Stadium or Jerry's World?
Oh, SoFi Stadium. It's easy. Literally can see it right now. I can see it from where I'm sitting. So anytime I don't have to leave my house is good. Yeah, but I like shooting in SoFi. It's a great stadium to shoot in.
Right. And what is the best stadium to shoot in? If there's not one better than SoFi, if there is one better than SoFi.
I think from like just it's easy to work. The lighting in there is great because it has the translucent roof, so it's like a giant softbox, and you don't get a lot of harsh shadows. So SoFi is great. I think one of the coolest places I've been to would be like Lambeau Field. I think just historical standpoint, like that's a great stadium. I've been to San Francisco when back at the old days at Candlestick, you used to get amazing light there in the fall. Always looked great there, and especially when they had baseball games still, when the Giants still played there, you'd get like a lot of dust and stuff, and it was great. I think Dallas is nice because that stadium's huge. I actually like going to Las Vegas for the Raiders because everything's black, like the whole stadium is black, and they put curtains up so you can't see any of the concession stands. So like the backgrounds are really clean. It's dark, it like kind of falls off, kind of like you don't remember how like the old Lakers used to like the light like only the court was lit up.
Yeah.
Like that. Like I love that kind of look, and everything else just falls off.
You can get some phenomenal shots in there for sure. Best scenic photo you have ever taken outside of a football related job or whatever, like that can be on any of your travels, vacations, like you just saw the scene and you shot it.
Oh, like not football related?
Yeah, not football related.
Oh, okay. Easy one for me. I have taken photos of like the Grand Tetons and Yellowstone, just amazing landscapes, and there's a great like overlook. I couldn't tell you, it's right outside of Grand Teton National Park. It's like you have like the Snake River in the foreground, and then in the background are the Tetons. It's amazing at like sunset. One of the coolest things I've ever seen and photographed.
Yellowstone, I still haven't got there yet, but I am going to get there really soon, and take some photos for myself as well too. If you could retire anywhere in the world, where would that be?
Well, probably be the Grand Tetons. That's like my dream area because one, I can still take photos of cool like nature and landscapes and everything like that. I can still do like things that I like doing, like riding dirt bikes outside in the woods and fly fishing, camping, like anything like that. I love being outdoors. I just came back from 2 days of fly fishing, up near Mammoth, after shooting a football game on Friday, and then spent Saturday and Sunday fishing. I just love being outside, just doing stuff, being in nature, things like that.
Too much world to explore.
So anywhere where I can, I know exactly. Anywhere where I can just be outside and like, fish and ride my dirt bike.
Yeah. And how long? And riding your dirt bike? How long you been doing that? How did that hobby start?
I just kind of fell into it. A friend of mine had like a dirt bike he wanted to sell. I'd never ridden a motorcycle before, and I was like, sure, why not? Tried it. I was like, oh, I love doing this, and it's taken me to some really cool places. I've been to earlier this summer. I was up in the Sierra Nevadas, rode my dirt bike up to like 10,000 feet. Through creeks and through trees and up mountainsides, and had a blast doing it. And I've met some really great people doing that, and it's been fun. I've been doing it maybe 6 or 7 years now.
That's awesome. I have to
learn.
Just
kind of fell into it.
Yeah.
That's
kind of on my.
I was like late 30s, and all of a sudden I'm riding a dirt bike.
There's still hope for us out there. If that's on your bucket list, learn how to ride a dirt bike, motorcycle. I am.
If I can do it, you can do it.
That is on my list, and I get, I have a couple of family and friends who know how, and they keep looking at me like, you need to join the club, man. So I'm gonna just add you to that list of folks who have done it.
Let me know.
It's a beautiful thing. Ben Liebenberg here on the Parallax Effect podcast definitely enlightened us a lot about the world of photography, his journey, great stories, great path to the NFL, leading and directing photography there. So look forward to all your work coming up this season. What did we learn today, Ben? I learned a lot about you. What did you learn from the show?
I learned you have a great theme song.
Thank you so much.
I like that. I think we just had a great conversation.
Yeah. Completely.
That was pretty fun, and just talking and, just organic and, seem like a good guy.
Thank you so much, man.
Maybe we'll
Likewise.
cross paths at another wrestling event.
I hope we do, man. And you know what? If you ever, you ever have a job here at SoFi somewhere and you need somebody to come carry some bags just to kind of hang out, I'd be willing to do that.
There we go.
Just to bring my camera and see what
look,
I can do.
Look, that's how I got to WrestleMania.
Yeah, exactly. And what an event it was. So I'm also going to send you some of my favorite shots so you can rate them.
Okay.
There's only a couple, so you're not going to get too much. So you can kind of see what how I'd like to position whatever and take care of capturing all the light and all that kind of stuff. So we did it here today on the Parallax Effect. Been a phenomenal episode here with Ben Liebenberg. Ben, where can the people find you if they want to connect with you on socials and see your work?
The website is benliebenberg.com, and my Instagram is Ben_Liebenberg. And swing by, follow. I post pretty much from every game that I'm at, so you can see what I'm doing each week and follow along.
benliebenberg.com and Instagram on Ben_Liebenberg. We are linked with him on the Parallax Effect at Parallax Effect Media on Instagram as well. But his information will be in the show description, so be sure to follow up on that. Thank you all so much for joining us today. Once again, you can find us on Instagram at Parallax Effect Media. You can link up with us on Facebook at The Parallax Effect and on Twitter at Parallax Effects. Once again, that is Parallax Effects with an S. Great job today, Ben. Leave us some ratings, leave some comments, chat with us. Hopefully 5 stars. Let us know how we can do better here on the Parallax Effect podcast. This has been just a great time. Photography is it's one of my new favorite hobbies, man. So I really appreciate you coming on and just giving us the latest and greatest in your occupation, in your world. We look forward to, like you said, the new season. Oh, you have any predictions? Are you allowed to make predictions? I know you're a 49er guy. You're coming off a pretty good year. You just made some trades. What you got for this upcoming season?
I mean, I think 49ers are going to be a playoff contender.
Yeah, most definitely. And making the connection to wrestling again, the tribal chief Roman Reigns, I don't know if you saw, was on I think First Take with Stephen A. Smith, and he's got the 49ers going all the way.
Okay, I like him. I like him now.
Yeah, we can acknowledge the tribal chief here on the Parallax Effect podcast. 49ers fan. We got Ben Liebenberg here. Thank you all so much for joining the Parallax Effect podcast, where every angle reveals a new depth of understanding. Signing off.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
You've been watching the Parallax Effect podcast, where every angle reveals a new depth of understanding.